Professor Park Hwa-jin, the Department of the History of Pukyoung National University, will make a presentation on the marine experience and the recognition in the travel literature of Joseon Tongsinsa. I am Park Hwa-jin of Pukyoung National University. I'm not majored in Joseon Tongsinsa, which is the goodwill mission of Korean mission to Japan, but I helped and joined many research about this topic. So today, I want to share with you about the marine experience and the cognition in the travel literature of Joseon Tongsinsa. So first, what is Joseon Tongsinsa? So I just simply explained, but mainly I want to talk about the whole route from Joseon Tongsinsa from Busan to Tsushima to Japan, the Iki, the second stopovers, and third stopover Ainoshima, and arrived in Shimonoseki port. So I want to share the marine experiences when they passed the Straits of Korea. So from 1907 and 1811, 12 Joseon Tongsinsa were dispatched to Japan, and they left Busan and arrived in Edo Makbu in Japan. All those records about those process is included in my document. And for about 210 years, the cultural exchange about this Joseon Tongsinsa were registered as UNESCO Memory of the World on October 31st, 2017. So we need to have more interest in this topic. After the Japan's invasion to Korea, after the war in 1592, the Tokugawa shogunate ruled Japan and asked a diplomatic tie to Korea. In 1599, the Joseon dynasty rejected, but in 1600, the Tsushima sent Koreans, Joseon people back to Joseon. So they signed a Gyu Treaty and restarted these diplomatic ties. So the Joseon dynasty was the only country that Tokugawa shogunate made a diplomatic tie. And since then, the 12 Joseon Tongsinsa were dispatched for about 210 years. So from first to third war, they were called like Hwaeregyam Swehansa, and they renamed as Tongsinsa. And this is the painting about the Joseon Tongsinsa. They held the blue flags. And move to the next slide. This is a slide showing some blue dragons, and it is a representative of the history. It is a kind of carriage holding the king's letter. Let's see the size of the Joseon Tongsinsa. So there are three main government officials and painters, and about 504 or sometimes 328 people. And they started from Hanyang, which is Seoul, and moved to Busan, and Busan to Tokugawa shogunate. So this is a list of Joseon Tongsinsa from 1st to 12th. This is the route of the Joseon Tongsinsa. So from Busan, they passed the Strait of Korea, So within the Joseon, they started from Hanyang to Busan and 3 routes, and to Japan they passed Tsushima to Osaka, which is a sea road, and from Yodo to Edo, they walked, and they anyway moved inland. So here I dealt with about the route from Tsushima to Shimonoseki. This is a painting about the whole group. So all the stopovers in Japan, where the Joseon Tongsinsa stopped by, the whole journey took about 6 to 12 months, and it is about 30,000 kilometers. It's a round trip. So within the Japan, they passed Tsushima and Ainoshima to Shimonoseki, and there Joseon Tongsinsa experienced very severe marine experiences because the route was quite dangerous. The Strait of Korea, the passage of the Strait of Korea was very, very dangerous. So people who joined this journey were quite scared and feared about this. So here we can see the route from Busan. I couldn't point it correctly, but so from Busan, it is the destination where the Joseon Tongsinsa leave and arrive. So hundreds of Joseon Tongsinsa gathered in Busan, and they checked all the belongings and all the required diplomatic documents and ships and the depth of water, and they also exercised onboarding, and they also had some ceremony or kind of pray to the god of sea. And also dozens of ships from Tsushima were dispatched to escort Joseon Tongsinsa, and in Tsushima dozens to hundreds of ships were waited for escorting this Joseon Tongsinsa. The wind direction was really important for their safe journey, because this sea route was quite difficult for them, because many of them, it was the first time to take the ship. So they prayed a kind of ceremony, a ritual, to pray for the god of the sea. So they stayed in Busan for about 16 days to 51 days, but out of 12, 5 times they stayed more than 40 days. So when they left to Busan port, sometimes they back from Dadepo or Yeongdo, near the Oryukdo. They couldn't depart to Japan. They just waiting for the proper wind direction and waves. And during those time, they visited some good areas like Haeundae or Morundae, and those are the dates they stayed in Busan from 1st to 12th. This is kind of farewell ceremony. This is held by Gyeongsang Jasuyong with the support by Gyeongsang Usuyong, and the place it is held in the guest house, kind of guest house. So they are very feared of passing about the journey. So it was a kind of big ceremony, a kind of big festival for Busan residents. All the government officials wear some black or red garments and sit opposite to the Chasusa and sing the north side, and Chasusa sit on the west wall, against the west wall. And they set up a big table in the middle, and there was some kind of performance. And they enjoyed this festival, this party, till late night. So in our residents in Dongdae and Busan Port enjoy those festivals together. This ritual for the god of the sea is really important. It is carried out based on the national ritual book. So from the 1st to 3rd, the rite was held right before the departure, but since it's 4th, 15 or 30 days before the departure, usually it was held at 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. and it is held in Yeongga-dae. So tomorrow in Busan, Joseon Tongsinsa ceremony was delayed. So tomorrow evening in Yeongga-dae, we will have the ritual for sea gods. So for example, we have Heiyuro, the name of the book. We have detailed information about this He Shinje. Some low-level official of Dongrebu asked to prepare some document for this ritual. So prepare to departure. When they arrived in Busan, they checked the Joseon Tongsinsa people arrived in Busan. They checked the ships and exercise boarding and checked the cargoes, and they adjust some masts and measure the length and width and height of the ships, and they also investigated kind of the depth of water. And the ships from Japan were dispatched to escort the Joseon Tongsinsa. So all the sailors from Korea, Joseon, and Japan were cooperated together. So sometimes there were some arguments about the wind directions among the sailors, whether it was okay to depart or sometimes it was not okay to depart. Anyway, they had some communication about to make the journey safe. So the whole process of depart is that all the officials wear some formal garments and on board, and they sat after shooting some cannons, and all the residents in that area farewelled to pray their safe journey. So there are about 10 to 20 ships were dispatched from Tsushima to escort, and in Waniura or Sasima, there are dozens to hundreds of ships were waiting for escorting them. So the most important thing for safe journey is wind direction. So northeast wind is the best for the safe journey, because the Tsushima is located down to the southeast side, so the wind direction really important to make all journeys safe and complete. So when I reviewed all 12 their documents about the Joseon Tongsinsas, so they left some their marine experiences, like they rise to the endless sky and down to the bottomless, and many were suffered from sea sicknesses. But at the later of the Joseon dynasty, during these journeys, no one died. Thanks to the marine knowledge of our ancestors, I think. In 1719, but the ships waiting in Fukuoka, 41 ships were wrecked and 60 were died. The ship of Joseon Tongsinsa were detailedly painted in the Japan's material. There are 6 ships, 2 large, 2 medium, and 2 small ships, and the dragons were painted. So in the modern era, we have some concept that how others think about us. So as we can see the paintings of the ships, they drew dragons. So, and there is some areas to sleep and to cook, and chairs and curtains are installed, and there is a mark for each government officials, and also there are some areas to set up some armors. in 1655 and 1748 and 1763, those 3 times they had very severe experiences, especially. So in 1655, in June 19th, they started from Busan, and the wind was okay, but the wind became stronger, and many of them were suffered from seasickness, and they cried due to the high waves and strong waves. Some part of the ship were broken, and the ship rose to the sky and down to the bottomless. Is almost near to death. It was the first experience they never had before. In 1748, also they experienced very high and volatile waves. No one answered, even though they were called. In 1763, the eastern northerly winds blew all day. They arrived in Chasupo, so they departed at 11 p.m. But when they saw other ships rose to the sky and fell down to the bottomless. So all the people in the ship were very scared and feared about the situation. This is the painting about their drifting. The left one is painted by Dakusai Hokusai, showing the Hwa-jin mountain. And on the right side, this is the ship meeting some storms. In Japan's drifting painting was quite detailed, but Korea's they focus more on writings than paintings. The Muriyama Teijiro wrote about these experiences. As Satsuma, the writers worked together with the painters and left some records about their experiences. So they depart from Busan and moved to the Shimonoseki port. And the oceans, the Strait of Korea, are quite a dangerous route. So in Tsushima, in Iki, and Ainoma, there were ships of Japan waiting for them. But in Ainoshima, in 1719, there were accident which wrecked Fukuoka ships. 41 ships and 61 died. So Joseon Tongsinsa stayed in Iki Island for 11 days. But July 24th in Ainoshima prepared for escorting Joseon Tongsinsa, and there were 41 ships and 41 ships were wrecked and 61 died due to the accident. And in Shimonoseki, hundreds of ships were waiting for their escorting. So to reach the Shimonoseki, the whole sea route was quite dangerous and very volatile. So Tsushima, Iki, Ainoshima. So Tsushima was the kind of a good destination to make a diplomatic agreement. So from Waniura to Hood, it took some time to get there. So, and they made some adjustment in there. So they stayed to Tsushima quite long. If it's a stopover, they stayed only 1 day. So Iki and Ainoshima, it was common to stay only 1 day. But in the Strait of Korea, because of the wind direction, sometimes they stayed longer than 1 day. So in Iki Island, they stayed more than 20 days. In 1763, in Ainoshima, they stayed 23 days, even though it's a stopover. That is the longest days they stayed in the stopover. In Osaka, Edo is a special area. It's not a stopover. In 1711, Tsushima, Iki, and Inoshima, Ainoshima, and Edo. Tsushima, except for the Tsushima, Iki, and Osaka, Okay, I'm sorry. They stayed Iki and Ainoshima for more than 9 days, which is quite long. This is the painting where the Joseon ships enter into the Tsushima. The first stopover of Japan is Tsushima. There are several reasons that they have to stay longer. But second stopover, Iki, most time they stopped in Iki and they visited 8 times when they back to Joseon Dynasty. Iki, they entered the Katsumoto port at the northwest side of Iki and stayed 2 days, at least 2 days, and sometimes 20 days. This is a painting of the Iki or Katsumoto. This is a painting. They escorting and welcoming the Joseon Tongsinsa. So they prepared 100 ships to welcome Joseon Tongsinsa and set up a guest house, a huge guest house to serve the Joseon Tongsinsa properly. And they spent like 7,500 kilograms of rice and 15,000 eggs. And the previous painting was included in the UNESCO's Memory of the World. And Ainoshima, the third stopover, is the last stopover in the Strait of Korea. So between the Ainoshima and Iki and Ainoshima, there is no land they can stop over. So always there are some dangers to be drifted. So always they always pay attention to the wind directions. So in 1763, they stayed more than 23 days. This is the picture, a painting of Ainoshima. On the left, bottom of the left side is where the guest house for the Joseon Tongsinsa was located. So I told about Fukuoka's accident in 1719 when Joseon Tongsinsa waited for the proper wind direction when they stayed for about 11 days. But there was 41 ships from Fukuoka and sailors were wrecked and died. So all the guest house also were damaged. The guest house in Ainoshima prepared for Joseon Tongsinsa also were damaged. So we restored this ship for Joseon Tongsinsa. This is how they welcome the Joseon Tongsinsa. So Joseon Tongsinsa's, when they built Joseon Tongsinsa's west house, about 3,500 people were worked, and they used 931 pieces of tatami. This is how they organized the ships to welcome the Joseon Tongsinsa when they enter into the Shimonoseki port. The ships like a crane. So in the middle, there are 3 government officials of the Joseon dynasty, the high-level people. And this is the painting when the Joseon Tongsinsa enter into the Kaminoseki port. So Joseon Tongsinsa ship gave some good deep impression to Japan. So they left several paintings drawing Joseon Tongsinsa's ships. And there's some kind of lunchbox. We also see this kind of ships painted. And also we can see how the ships of Joseon Tongsinsa are painted on this curtain. And this is the painting that Joseon Tongsinsa are moved to the smaller boat to enter into the guest house. And it is Joseon Tongsinsa Jeong, which is displayed in the Japanese art gallery. And also there is Joseon Tongsinsa's painting was drawn. And it is a lunchbox. Also we can see the Joseon Tongsinsa. in 18, and there we also have some plate drawn the Joseon Tongsinsa's record. The marine experience passing the Strait of Korea was very dangerous, but there was a few accidents occurred in Joseon Tongsinsa's journey. Only some in Japan, we had a big accident. The Fukushima one experienced a big accident. So anyway, it was quite a dangerous route. The most important thing for the safe journey was wind direction. So they preferred east northerly wind or north wind or east wind. But in the journal, we haven't seen any drift or drift records accident, thanks to the marine knowledge of our ancestors. Even though there were some conflicts with sailors from Japan, but our ancestors' very careful judgment was helpful for making a safe journey. So we have seen many documents about Joseon Tongsinsa, but lack of documents about this marine experience and marine journey. So I think it is a good idea to research the shape of ship of Joseon Tongsinsa. Thank you.